Hey folks, welcome to Black Gumbo Southern Gardening. Today I thought I'd give you a garden tour since it's the end of the month, beginning of a new month, and we always like to look around and see what's growing. Got a lot of things going on out here right now. Most of it's small, but there's a lot of it, so let's take a look. I do have to give a shout out to my friend Kay over at the Late Bloomer homestead. Go check out her channel. Just search Late Bloomer, look for Kay Cottrell, and I really like what she's doing over there on her new homestead. Real relaxing, enjoyable channel. You get to learn a lot about gardening, but you also get to learn a lot about how to deal with a new property. So go check her out. She needs some subscribers, y'all. Go subscribe to Kay. All right, we'll begin our tour in the little herb bed here. These are different pollinator attractors, medicinal herbs, and some flowers. And man, they're really coming up. It's been warm here, and so we've got a real nice sprout of a real nice burst of growth. Seeds that I had planted that were just sitting around are finally starting to come up. So we've got some borage, echinacea, coneflower, toothache plant. There's some chamomile in there, a few other things that I'd have to look at the labels, and I'm not going to do that right now. But yeah, herb garden, man. I hope this brings in some bees. We've got a lot of green up here. All my fig trees are starting to put on new growth. And the big Texas freeze we had killed back a lot of these trees. This is dead wood, snaps right off. But look down here. The roots are putting on new growth. And I'm going to show you in a new video coming up how to divide that root out, how to divide that shoot out with roots and start your tree over. Because I like this variety. What is it? I like all the varieties I've got. Actually, that's a Ronde Bordeaux. That's one of my favorite varieties. We're going to start a new tree out of that. The fig trees are doing wonderful. It turns out most of my fig trees actually survived. Even these little guys here are putting on new growth. And yeah, so that makes me happy. There are a couple that I thought had died, like this guy over here, who was just a little slow, but there's new growth. So on my fig deck, we've got a new fig jungle coming up. Right here I've got my kitchen herb garden. Got some sage, I've got some marjoram, I've got some thyme, I've got some, I don't know what that is, got some parsley there, some rosemary, and this little bed over here is doing real nice for me. I'm really enjoying these herb beds. You can always expand your gardening with container gardening. If you got a little room here, you can tuck in some containers. You can just put them along your beds like that. What I've got here is some dwarf tomatoes. I grew these from seeds, and those are looking really healthy. Got some bug damage here, but that plant will overcome that. Got some flowers on some tomatoes already. More herbs, some perilla. It's all looking good. So things are growing in the garden. My squash plants are starting to put on flower heads, and all my peppers, it's not quite warm enough for the peppers to take off yet, but they'll take off when the heat sets in, and they will fill this area in quite nicely. I have some more herbs. These are the tomatoes that I rescued. If you watched my channel at all, you saw that I grew some tomatoes from seed. And when we had the cold snap, the power went out and the grow lights went out. And these little seedlings got really stunted, and they turned real purple, and they were very sad. Well, I took the chance to try to take some and revitalize them. They've had some fish emulsion, a couple of doses of fish emulsion. I potted them up in some fresh soil, and they're recovering quite nicely. So I'll have some tomato plants to share. Some of these are destined for my son's house. Also in my garden, I've plugged in bunching onions here and there, some of them in the holes. And these are Asian bunching onions from Kitazawa Seed Company. And man, they're doing great. The backup peppers are doing okay over here. They're backups because I have some things coming out and snipping off my peppers at the stem, taking the whole plant, everything, the leaves and everything, and just leaving me a little stick, a little twig like this. I think it's a rodent. I think there's a mouse out here or a small rat. But you notice when they get snipped, they shove out new growth anyway. So these are peppers that really want to grow. It's never too late to start seeds, especially if it's warm outside. I have some more bunching onions here so that I can have some succession. They're about that big now. These will start sprouting. And then in this tray, what did I put in there? Oh, I've got dill. Got to have dill, and I don't have any dill sprouts yet, so I planted some dill seed. Let's take a look over here. In my last video, I showed you how to install a drip irrigation system, and so far it's working just fine. These tomato plants really need to get pruned and trained up the trellis. I'm going to drop a string down from this structure here, and we're going to clamp those guys onto the string and train them up to a single vine. And these 20 tomato plants will be grown up that string, and as they get to the top here, there'll be a hook with more string on it. I'll just unroll some string and move it down a bit, and these will hopefully produce better that way. We'll see. I'm going to try this new thing this year. But yeah, the tomato bed, these tomatoes are looking great. All of these are grown from seed, and all of them are looking very, very healthy. I'm very pleased with the progress on these tomatoes. I did plug in some surplus tomatoes in these containers, and we're just going to grow them in some cages. These are determinants, so they'll do fine in the cage there. Yeah, leftover thyme down there, a little bit of rosemary not doing good. I'm going to reuse this container here. Over there I've got some more bunching onions, so lots of bunching onions this year. But here's my beans. We're going to have to build a trellis here for the beans because these are climbing beans, and well, you got to trellis them. Down here, some more bunching onions. Right here, I've got some bush beans that haven't come up yet. But over here, the cucumbers that I planted recently are now coming up. So we'll thin these cucumbers down to maybe 4 vines per row. I have 3 rows, and then we'll build a trellis here as well. Probably going to do a net trellis. That's what I do every year for cucumbers. But those are all pickling cucumbers, and I'm looking forward to those. Wow, they come up quick. We have been slowly pruning Lucy, the lemon tree, down. She died during the winter storm. Despite our best efforts to save Lucy, wow, everything here is dead. I'm going to do a video just on Lucy. The way you find out if a tree has died all the way is you scrape the bark, and if you see green, that means there's a cambium layer there and the tree's still alive. We've done scrape tests here and there. We've been slowly dismantling Lucy, and guess what we found though? Check this out. Lucy lives. New growth, and it's above the graft union. The graft union is down here, and I know the graft union is near the ground because that's how I planted it. But we know that this branch produces lemons, the right kind. So that branch is above the graft union. So what we're going to do is we're going to slowly reduce Lucy to about right here and grow up some of these branches here until we get a nice, set of branches that we want the right shape. We want kind of an open center, and we want Lucy to grow back healthy and strong. When I planted Lucy, I did not know about grafting, and you can see that all these branches grew into the middle, they intertwined, and it's just not healthy. Lucy defied the odds though, and produced hundreds of pounds of citrus for us the past couple of years. So yeah, we're hoping that we can get some more lemons out of Lucy. This is my wife is beside herself with joy. So look at that, new growth. Spring is waking up the dormant berries. This one's putting on buds. This one's growing well. That one has a little damage, but it's putting on some new growth. But this up here, I think, is done for. I'll probably prune that off. And these leaves will form the rest of that plant. These are my other blackberries down here. I don't know where I'm going to put those yet, so they're just going to grow in a pot for a while. This is a fig tree, a Celeste, that I cloned off of my big tree out front. And here's my goji berries. Look how beautiful they're growing. These goji berries, I can't wait to eat them. This is an old pepper I'm experimenting with. I trimmed it back and it's pushing out new growth. So yeah, everything is nice and green and lush. Really wants to grow. That's my surplus apple, but look at my apples in the ground. Look how beautiful. They are about 6 inches tall now from the scion wood, so that graft has taken. This graft over here has taken. Yeah, they're looking good. Probably need to water these guys again. We want to grow a long whip. As much growth as we can get on the first year of these apples. We want them to come up before we start pruning and shaping for small fruit trees. When we let them get established and grow that long central leader, and then we will come in, I'll teach you how to prune these to keep an open, to keep a small fruit tree. And speaking of fruit trees, this is my plum tree. Man, it just took off like wildfire, man. That tree is going to be wonderful. It's doing exactly what I want it to do. The main branches that I selected, there are 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. They're growing. The buds that I wanted to grow, an outward facing bud, are doing their thing. So that first year for that tree in my ground, I'm pleased. I'm not pleased with this one. I've shown you several times, this is a peach tree, and it just did not survive the freeze. So we're going to replace that one. But for now, it's just going to stay there and be sad because you never know. It's still kind of limber up here. It may just be a little bit late. Most of our citrus trees in pots are blooming, and that's encouraging. I've got 5 or 6 citrus trees around here tucked away. There's a couple of them hiding amongst the figs. Here's a few of them right here. This was to be Lucy's replacement, but now that Lucy is doing fine, we have to find something to do with this one. Right here, I've got my satsuma, and it's got little fruits on it. You can see tiny little fruits have formed here and there. So, yeah, citrus is doing good. This tree is responding well to being reshaped. It was bent over, and I've kind of staked it up and put some stress on it, and slowly we're going to bend that tree around so that it grows more straight. I don't want it, you know, weeping down like this, but so far that's what it's doing. It's about time to stake it up again and put some more pressure on it. The Muscadine vineyard is waking up and putting on new leaves and new growth. I love my muscadines. I'm so glad they survived the freeze. I have a little project going over here to grow some sweet potato slips. I took all my tiny little sweet potatoes that were too small to eat from last year's crop, and I buried them down in here. You can see there they are, and they're starting to grow slips. So what I'll do is, as these slips get large enough and they start growing some roots down at the bottom, I will snap them off. I'll dig those potatoes out of there. I'll snap them off and plant them by themselves and get new sweet potatoes. I've got 3 varieties in here, but the one that did best for me was just a store-bought orange plain old sweet potato. So I've got a lot of those in there. So there we have it, a end of March garden tour. Hope you enjoyed seeing what's growing in the garden. Here's some things that are going to be coming up. I'm going to be showing you, like I said, how to divide figs. I'm going to show you how to plant an herb pot, an excellent video for beginning gardeners, people that you want to encourage to get into gardening. You can start with herbs, and I'm going to show you how simple it is. In fact, I'm going to go show my mother-in-law how simple it is to start an herb garden. We're also going to have some other videos coming up about training the tomatoes up the trellis. And yeah, we got a lot to do. It's spring, man. Got a lot of work to do. Look for those videos coming up soon, and please subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Really appreciate that. Thank you for all your support, all the comments. It's wonderful to talk back and forth with you guys in the comment section. So, hey, happy gardening to you, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.